Hello, and welcome to the Megan Taylor Creator Podcast, a show for entrepreneurs looking to grow their business with digital marketing. In this episode, I'll be talking about how you can prepare your small business for the holidays, and I'll be giving you my guide to holiday marketing. Let's get started. So, in this episode of the Megan Taylor Creator Podcast, I wanted to talk about something a little bit different and talk about holiday marketing because, as I've kind of spoken about on previous podcast episodes, I am getting more and more aware of the fact that we're getting closer to the end of the year now, which I really don't understand how that's happened. And with that, we also need to start thinking about how we're going to prepare for the holidays and also how we're actually going to start preparing for the new year, because these two periods of the year are very important for small business owners, especially, but very challenging to market yourself when you're a small business owner and when there's so much competition. Because although buyers may be more inclined to buy, there's still a lot grabbing for their attention. And if you're a small business owner with a limited budget, you will be competing with a lot of the household names that people will just automatically go to. And that's really difficult when you've got a limited budget and also maybe limited marketing experience as well. I've been working in marketing for about 5 years now, I guess, going on 6. And although none of the brands that I've ever worked with particularly focus too much on the holidays, I have worked with a number of e-commerce brands who I know do focus on the holidays. And I've done that through my own business. And with working with these e-commerce brands, I started to really think about holiday marketing and what it actually means and how you can do well. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about how I'm going to approach it this year and how I think it's a good idea to actually start approaching it as early as you can, but also when you're planning for your holiday marketing, why you should actually start planning for the new year as well. This is going to be a really fun, kind of cozy episode, and I'm hoping that there's going to be a lot of value and it's going to really help you in this very fun but very stressful time of year. So, as always, let's just get straight into it. So, with holiday marketing, I think the thing that people struggle with the most is creating holiday content that's in keeping with the times, whilst also having enough time to actually preparing that content. And I think that the shift and focus on short form video content and trendy content, which we've seen a lot this year with the rise of TikTok, the continuous rise of TikTok, and also Instagram Reels kind of trying to buy in on TikTok's market share. There's also other social media platforms like Facebook and YouTube, which have also introduced their own version of Reels. So there's lots of different ways that we can approach this. And I think this content works really well, especially for small business owners, because it's personable, it's relatable, can feel a lot more organic than a lot of the polished advertisements that you may see from bigger brands like, say, Nike or Adidas. I'm just thinking about all the sportswear brands who we see a lot of this time of year, and Apple as well, or the tech brands too. They do a lot of holiday marketing. And obviously in England, the big thing is what the supermarket's going to do this year, with John Lewis probably being the favourite and the one that get the most attention. But also Audi have really stepped it up in recent years, and Sainsbury's as well. And although those types of television advertisement, which they can also use on their YouTube channel and their social media, and they can repurpose that content now when they've got that video file, they can actually take that content and make it relatable and make the brand feel like a more relatable thing, because they've used certain techniques, particularly storytelling techniques, to make like the whole nation really engage and empathize with the content. Because there's one thing that they do, and it's the same throughout the year, these videos, they have a theme and they'll have like a slogan to go with the whole campaign, and you can see that campaign across their socials too. So my first couple of tips for actually creating holiday campaigns for small business owners would be to look at what the bigger brands are doing and how you can do that, but on a much smaller scale. And I think, again, your best bet is probably to do something similar to what the say, supermarkets are doing in the UK. Take that, create a theme, and use short form video content to make it more relatable and believable, and to create a piece of entertainment that people will enjoy organically. And if people are moved by something, then they're more likely to get excited about a brand and want to actually engage with that brand and actually buy from that brand. So that would be my first tip. So my second tip for kind of survival in the holiday period as a small business owner, in order to stand out from the competition, is to create a compelling offer. And compelling offers are something that I think a lot of small business owners overlook. I think they think it's enough to say, like, say, for example, if it's a service provider, they might be trying to sell consultations, or even if it's, say, a virtual assistant, and they're like, oh, I can do all of these things. I can help you out at Christmas. I know it's really busy. That's not enough. They need to actually have some kind of discount, some kind of value offering thrown in there to make the exchange worthwhile, I think, especially at this time of year, because businesses are bombarded by advertisements. So I think we need to remember that it's going to take a lot for them to actually want to click on your campaign wherever it is, but also you do actually want to give something, because I think Christmas and holidays in general, so if you're in the US, you obviously have Thanksgiving, and then there's the New Year holiday as well, which is very big in the UK. We really get excited about New Year. It's a time of year where people like to give back. A lot of the bigger companies will give to charity, a charity that's normally related to what they do in some way, or they might give their customers a free gift, or there might be like a 3 for 2 voucher in there. And I guess you could do a similar thing if you're like a service provider. You could offer a free consultation or a package that has a certain amount of free social media posts if you're a social media manager. So it's about being creative, but it's also about being specific. I think Christmas is a very sensitive time of year, and I just know that from my own experience. A lot of people I know struggle with Christmas for various personal reasons, and you want to remember that emotions are going to be high. And while you want to leverage the fact that people are going to be feeling more emotional during this time of year, you want to be upfront and honest, especially with your offer. This isn't anything to do with Christmas, but to give you an idea of how important being upfront with your offer is, I was just kind of browsing. I was casually scrolling on Facebook, I think, and I saw an ad for some shoes, because I'm in the market for some new shoes. And I saw that there was a brand, I'm not going to say the name because I don't think that's really fair, and this is just my personal opinion. The offer didn't work on me, but it might work on someone else, so there's no point in announcing that brand. But they had what seemed initially like a really good offer, and I think it was like £15 off all their shoes. But actually, when you go to the website, it was £15 off all shoes if you were like a VIP member on their website. And it's not like the fast fashion brands like ASOS, where you pay like a one-time fee each year. So for example, their VIP delivery is like £10, I think, a year, and you get free unlimited next day delivery. But this particular brand were charging, I think it was about £40 for the membership, and if you didn't have the membership, you'd have to pay the full price for the shoes. So they weren't being honest and upfront, or at least there wasn't anything in the advertisement that I could see. And you don't want to annoy your customers. You don't want them to get to the checkout, get really excited about what you have to offer, and then realize that there's an extra hidden fee in there. I think that type of marketing doesn't actually work that well nowadays. I think if anything, it breaks trust with the consumer, and you need to remember that. And so be completely honest and say, if you are going to offer a free consultation, say it's for half an hour, the first one is free, and the next couple you will have to pay, or I will offer you a certain amount of my time, and then after that you need to pay. And be honest with how much you charge, or if it's a discount, be honest with how much you're discounting and then how much you normally charge for. Because I think as well, if people go to you just because of your discounted price and then they don't actually want to pay that price, in the end you won't really get anything. You might get a little bit of extra income just from those few kind of discounted sessions, but really what agencies and service providers are looking for is long-term retainer clients that will actually be able to support their business. So thinking in the short short-term wins and offering discounts left, right, and center is not going to grow your business. It's okay, I think, at the holiday time, because this is a time where, although buyers are very willing to buy because they feel the pressure to, because of, Christmas presents and stuff, they still have a lot of other things that they need to buy for and are in the market for a lot of different things. So, you need to be careful about the pricing if you really want to hone in on a particular market. Say, for example, if you're doing the budget market, I think that's one of the things that annoyed me so much about the offer from the shoe company, was because I was really excited about it. And I'd just been on holiday last month. I was in Miami, and Miami is quite an expensive place to go. It was quite like a, not once in a lifetime holiday, but a once in a blue moon type holiday. So we had spent more money than we normally would on a holiday. And so I was like, well, normally it would probably be in my price range, but I didn't want to pay for that this month. But because of reasons, I needed a new wardrobe of shoes. And I just felt like, well, the brand was clearly trying to appeal to a certain type of audience, but then I don't understand how that offer would work, because eventually the buyer would get to the checkout and realize that. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I think that real life example is really important to keep in mind when you're developing your offers. Just be clear with it, be upfront about it, even if there's a little bit in the terms and conditions or the captions of your campaigns. Just make sure that you have something. And I think that will actually increase your conversions, because if people read that offer and are compelled by that from the get-go, they're more likely to just take action and end up skewing your data because there's been a load of bounce rates because you haven't been upfront. So my next tip is to actually invest in paid ads. And I know this is a very controversial topic, especially for small business owners with a small budget, but I think there's so much you can do with paid ads on a small budget. You just need to know how they work, what target audience you're really trying to appeal to, and leverage the power of copywriting and great creative. And all holiday campaigns that you see, especially from the big brands, they all have one thing in common, and that is really great creative. So I would not overlook this step. It doesn't have to be polished, it just has to have clarity, and it has to have meaning and substance. And you can obviously portray your creative in any way. Again, you go back to the vertical video discussion, you could do that. You could do a product demonstration, or UGC content would be, I think, really ideal at this time of year, because they're willing to buy, but they're also quite picky with what they actually spend on, because they're overly aware of their budget. Obviously, this depends on your market and the type of customer you're attracting, but let's just go back to what most of us small business owners will probably be doing, and that is targeting people who aren't necessarily on a bit of a budget, unless it's a luxurious brand, but you get my drift. So yeah, if you're targeting people on a specific budget, I think that UGC content would be great, because they're more likely to trust a consumer who's already invested in that product. But I think it's especially important to remember around this time of year with UGC content, you need to think about how organic it is. So the problem often is when you're looking at UGC content, a lot of people now are under the impression that whoever you pay to do your UGC content, they're a big influencer with $1 billion acts or something like that. And a lot of the time that is unfortunately true, and brands are starting to realize that this doesn't help foster consumer trust. So they're actually starting to look towards micro influencers. This is actually their time to shine, and I think you should really leverage that over the Christmas period. And you can do this with paid ads, I think, especially because it looks so organic on certain paid ads platforms, particularly if you're doing a boosted social media post or you're doing a TikTok ad. I think that UGC content would be the way to go, especially for e-commerce businesses. For digital marketing agencies or tech brands, you're probably better off going the more traditional route. I think tech brands could do a lot of interesting things with video content too, but a lot of those kind of audiences tend to be a bit more old-fashioned and like simpler formats, whereas a lot of, say, beauty brands or fashion brands, like budget fashion brands, they will actually have younger audiences who are really excited about just social media and know about all the trends and just want nothing more than new trends. So it really does depend depend. But yeah, I would really leverage paid ads, and I would consider, again, depending on your audience, and that tends to be the thing in marketing, right? It's just the answer is it always depends. But I actually would for this year at the very least. So 2022, which is when I'm recording this, November 2022, I would consider staying on social media platforms and using their ads management centers because A, the reach is incredible. B, it tends to be more cost effective. So if you look at things like Google Ads, for example, it's incredibly archaic. If you've got not that much experience with ads, it's probably going to be quite stressful and annoying to set up an ad because there's lots of limitations that you have to abide by. And whilst other ads platforms, they do have limitations, but they're not nearly as old school as Google Ads, especially when it comes to copy. And this can be difficult if you're trying to create a campaign that tells a story. Obviously, you can use like carousel images, but then the copy is very sparse. It's very limited characters. And depending on what you're trying to achieve, that might not be such a great thing. So I also think that it is just more cost effective. You do have to remember that you're paying for, like on Facebook, you're paying for a mixture, I think, of actual clicks and views that you get. And Facebook will round up how many views it thinks your ad will get, depending on how much you actually are willing to spend each day. It will be able to calculate your rough audience count when you set up your ad. But for things like TikTok, I think you're just paying for the views and you're not guaranteed to get clicks. So I think that scares some people, but I also think that audiences on TikTok, they're there for discovery, they're there to learn about new things, and I think that they're more receptive to advertisements over there. So I think it would be a really good idea to leverage those platforms that have specifically built their ads management and just general organic feeds around discovering new brands. So yeah, I really hope that this episode helped you. I'm trying to develop a little bit more structure in these episodes. Oftentimes it's just me giving some tips, but I like the idea of having like a talking point and starting the conversation and then going on to the actionable points because I think it gives the tips a little bit of context. But I know that this is a really difficult time of year for a lot of people and a really busy time of year for marketers. So I think I just wanted to provide some kind of relief because I've actually been writing about this kind of content a lot this week because some of my clients have requested this type of content. So it's been front and center in my mind. And I thought, how can I bring what I've learned through my research to you guys? And that's why I decided to do this podcast episode. And doing it in November means that you can all plan your holiday campaigns way ahead of time. You may be a bit late for Thanksgiving, but obviously I'm based in the UK. So unless you're really targeting US audiences, we don't have Thanksgiving here. So happening around this time of year. So yeah, let me know what you think about the episode. And if you have any feedback, I'd actually really love to start getting some feedback of how people think I can improve because I've been doing this podcast for a while now, I think since May, and I'm really genuinely quite impressed with myself because this is probably one of the longest projects that I've managed to keep up other than the business as a whole. So I'm really excited about that and I'm really looking forward to continuing to create more content and better content. So as always, if you like this video, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to our channel so that you can stay up to date with the podcast. I'm trying to sort out a better RSS feed than I had before because not all of the podcast episodes are up on Spotify. So I am going to try and do that in the last half of the year as well. And as always, thanks for listening and I will speak to you next week. Bye.